USAID has had a lot of heat on them and pretty much message saying to shut it all down and see what they've been up to. We're about to see how the Clintons are involved and the Gates in some of the fraud that's been going on.
Also, and of course,
George Soros.
You asked Hillary Clinton publicly what stolen from Haiti in 2010 after the earthquake.
The United States controls all the world's media and many European media.
You could have literally millions of deaths.
To me, that's corruption. I'm sorry.
Check the Department of Education. He's going to find the same thing. Go to the military. Let's check the military.
Welcome back to Rattlesnake TV, guys. The purge of corrupt government institutions by Donald Trump, spearheaded by Elon Musk and Big Balls, continues. And there are a lot of people getting caught with their pants down with this one. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to go through some more of these bombshell revelations, and I'm going to connect the dots as best I can, which saves you guys from having to do a lot of research. But before we get into it, guys, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you do enjoy this.
initiated here.
The CIA liaises with assets of the U.S. government that are capacity built to advance U.S. national security interests or to advance U.S. national interest, like keeping us safe or making us wealthier. The CIA started getting in trouble in the 1960s and 70s with all the scandals of what they were doing, and it moved a substantial amount of its operations into USAID, the humanitarian group. It was a sort of NGO plausible deniability layer. You can think of it as three stools when it comes to advancing U.S. national interests abroad. State Department sets the policy. The CIA will do the operations of telling our assets on the ground what to do and working with them, but none of that works unless those assets are capacity built, meaning they're given money, they're given resources, they're able to beef up their staff. What we do whenever we go into a country is we do what's called the baseline assessment. For example, if we have 14 NGOs in the area and they only have a little bit of money, if the State Department says we need 50, or if the CIA says we need 50, USAID will find a way to multiply those institutions and it will run the money to them. USAID plays that role for DOD, for CIA, and for state, and that's why they've become really the most important institution in American foreign
This is an institution that seems to have almost unlimited funding to be able to do whatever they want to spread their influence around the world and also enrich themselves. In my last video, we discussed how they've been overthrowing foreign governments, controlling foreign media, and also the media within the country, as well as spreading leftist propaganda all around the world and internally. Just one example of this is the churches in the United States that have been corrupted through this funding, whilst also all of the LGBTQ ideas are being exported globally. Various organizations and institutions around the world are relying on US funding to basically stay in existence, then they will do what they're told. And also, money on a large enough scale can seriously influence culture. Let's have a listen to Mike Benz describing this with Tucker. And the reason why I keep on bringing up Mike Benz is because this is basically his life's work. He's the go-to guy with this sort of information.
What was done in this case in Bangladesh, and these leaked documents from the Grey Zone show this, a plan to destabilize Bangladesh politics. They sought the LGBT population, two Bangladeshi ethnic minority groups and student groups. They turned around and they took U.S. taxpayer funds and they funded Bangladeshi rap groups to produce songs and music videos insinuating that people should take to the streets and do street protests. This is, for example, how we end up funding terrorist groups and paramilitaries. It's the coalition of the fringes and the extremes and the weirdos.
Pretty much the exact same stuff that happens here, they perpetrated over there. Put it in the music, have degenerate minority groups promote and mass produce it, and then get people to think that this is the majority idea and ideals. Ain't nothing new.
And the prostitutes.
What you're describing that we did in Bangladesh is what's happened here, and so it raises the question, like, was that all by design also? And of course it was.
Now, when you hear this, as Tucker alluded to, it kind of makes you wonder, if everything under the sun that reaches a certain level is controlled in some sort of way, then how exactly have the perverse ideas and cultural influences that we've seen over the past few decades been allowed to explode within and saturate our culture? Why do actors and rappers and entertainers and other influencers very often have strange connections to the CIA? And that's a topic for another video entirely. Anyways, what many suspected, but what we're learning is that USAID is in fact a money laundering scheme where the money will be sent to these other places, but then go through a little bit of a process and end up right back in the pockets of the people who signed up for it and their buddies. And it's important to note that the funding is fungible, meaning that the USAID dollars do not flow directly to their destination. They move through multiple layers with various entities handling and redistributing it. This obfuscates accountability and makes it a lot more difficult to track and a lot easier to manipulate. And if you want to check...
So they know there's a paper trail, just try and convolute it as much as possible.
these charts out on Twitter, there's a page called Data Republican showing a lot of this. And it's a bit boring to go through in detail, but let's just go with this. Say, for example, there was a country at war. You provide aid, but not by directly giving the money, but by supplying arms and weaponry to them. But the arms and weaponry you're using just so happen to be from a company that a family member is on the board of. And then they're charging top dollar. Or maybe that very company, coincidentally, has agreed to give you a very well-paying job on their board when you retire for all of your great service. Or maybe you pull a few strings for them and your drug addict son gets a position on their board with absolutely zero qualification if you're Joe Biden. Or maybe you're a Clinton and you raise billions of dollars for your family, not for profit. And it's meant to go to Haiti in a time of disaster, but instead of going to Haiti, it just goes straight back to you. And interestingly, I dug up this footage of the Clintons before the earthquake in 2010 in Haiti with none other than George Soros, who was just so keen to do some philanthropy.
And is giving away his billions now with the same determination that he made them in places like Haiti, a country that has less money in the bank than he does. Last month, he brought the First Lady with him for a look at some of the projects his foundation is funding.
See, she had to put the glasses on when she see the camera.
This year, Soros plans to give away almost $500 million around the world.
Everyone knows, of course, Hillary's belief that it takes a village, which only makes sense, after all, in places like Haiti, where she's taken a number of them. Thank you.
Anyways, after the earthquake, former President Bill Clinton was named as co-chair of the Haiti Recovery Commission. At this time, Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, which would have seen her responsible for channeling US aid to Haiti. But apparently, it never arrived, and the Haitians haven't really forgotten about it.
In 2010, the earthquake of Haiti, not only American taxpayers, but the whole world has given billions of dollars to the Clinton Foundation for the Haitians. Not even 2% of that money went back to Haiti. So, Mr. Trump, we are
2%.
asking, begging you, the Haitian community will side with you if one day you ask Hillary Clinton publicly to disclose the audit of all the money they have stolen from Haiti in 2010 after the earthquake.
2% of what was raised. It's not funny, but it's like, dog.
Defenders.
How does all this blatant corruption just get to go on? Like, that's a lot of bread.
Said you will champion our cause. We welcome you, sir, and we will work with you. But please, ask publicly Hillary Clinton during your next debate to publish the audit of all the money they have stolen from Haiti. Thank you, sir.
Chelsea Clinton's foundation also has raked in $85 million from USAID, and there's some serious question marks about how that got spent. Anyways, these are just a few hypotheticals about how the swamp creatures may or may not be gaming the system. I think Jay Dyer said it well when he said all the tax money was just stolen and funneled through USAID, amongst other organizations, to propagandize and mind control the people the taxes were stolen from, as well as the rest of the world. And you might have noticed once or twice that the media seems to kind of be in lockstep, and it seems to have been that way for a little while now. Well, that's because of the aforementioned funding, where they are paid to create and control the narrative, and to make conservatives and libertarians look like crazy And you guys might remember Putin mentioning this to Tucker in their interview, which has a different ring to it now.
Confused. I mean, that's the biggest act, and it's the largest emission of CO2 in history. Okay, so if you had evidence, and presumably given your security services, your intel services, you would, that NATO, the US, CIA, the West did this, why wouldn't you present it and win a propaganda victory?
In the war of propaganda, it is very difficult to defeat the United States because the United States controls all the world's media and many European media. Beneficiary of the biggest European media are American financial institutions. Don't you know that? So it is possible to get involved in this work, but it is cost prohibitive, so to speak. We can simply shine the spotlight on our sources of information, and we will not achieve results. It is clear to the whole world what happened, and even American analysts talk about it directly.
So moving on, I think that we will also be finding out in the coming months, it's just a feeling that I've got, that some leftist YouTubers and streamers haven't exactly been pulling the numbers that their channels suggest. And I think a few of them might be pretty worried right now because they might have been getting a piece of the pie. There are organizations out there like Progressive Victory who actually fund these left-wing streamers because otherwise they'd be completely broke because, not enough people listen to them organically. But I'm going to do some digging about that, and I will let you know if I find anything interesting. But before we carry on, guys, take a moment to just take it all in for a second. The country is nearly $40 trillion in debt. The tax burden is pretty high compared to other countries. The government didn't want to really do anything about the wildfires in Maui or California. They left their own citizens out to dry that were affected by Hurricane Helene and Milton. They don't give a shit about the water in Flint, Michigan, and the list goes on. But then you find out that these NGOs and politicians have been making themselves filthy rich with the exact same money, to the tune of at least $1 billion a week, which seems to be what was going out from USAID alone. All the while,
$1 billion a week?
Rot.
$1 billion a week, dog. He said $1 billion about a week was going out through USAID. Bro, what? And there still ain't clean water in Flint, Michigan? That's crazy.
sickening. And actually, what Doge is showing is that not only are these organizations wasteful and ideological and corrupt, etc., what's happened is that they have actually formed a parasitic relationship with the country. They have attached themselves to the government being the host, and they are just extracting resources and nutrients. And the body receives zero benefit from this, and actually, it makes the host very sick. So what should we do with this parasite?
You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired.
But guys, with all that in mind, at least the Irish NGO Goal was getting paid over 100 million euros to help people from the third world immigrate to Ireland.
Many organisations have received substantial funding from USAID, including Irish NGOs. And looking at their most recent annual reports, Goal received more than €100 million in 2023. That's over half its funding, while Trócaire received over €1 million.
And Bill Gates' vax organisation Gavi got nearly $5 billion, which explains why he's come out recently. And all of a sudden he seems a little bit concerned with what Elon is doing.
Mr. Gates, you also called Elon Musk's political influence abroad, quote, insane, along with another word we can't repeat here. But what's your take on his political access and influence here in America right now?
Well, Elon, his private sector work, has been very innovative, really fantastic. A lot of private sector people, when they get into government, they don't take the time necessarily to see what the good work is or why it's structured the way it is. So I'm a little worried, particularly with this USAID stuff. Mm-hmm. My foundation...
He said, what's the good work and how it's already structured? Follow the blueprint of what's already going on is pretty much what he said. It's the good work.
Partners with USAID on nutrition and... getting vaccines out, and there's incredible people. They're not actually worms that work there. Yeah. So hopefully we'll get some of that work back in shape. In fact, if we don't, you could have literally millions of deaths. So, with aid, people think, wow, how much do we give to these countries? As you said, it's less than 1%. People think it's 5%, and it should be 2%, but it's actually under 1%.
Wow, and still saving lives.
Well, but with all of this new information now, even liberals are asking questions. Have a listen to what Jon Stewart had to say.
There is a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse within a system.
Audits and waste, fraud, and abuse are not the same thing. So let's decompose these.
Please educate me on
Sure. So an audit is exactly what you just described, which is, do I know what was delivered to which place?
Right.
The ability to pass an audit, or the fact that the DoD has not passed an audit, is not suggestive of waste, fraud, and abuse. That is completely false right there. So
what is
now it's a question of, it's suggestive that we don't have an accurate inventory that we can pull up of what we have where. That is
That sounds like waste to me. If you had all of this here and now you have none of it here and you can only tell me where some of it went, seems pretty wasteful unless I get a full list of where it went.
Not the same as saying we can't do that because waste, fraud, and abuse has occurred.
So in my world, that's waste.
How is that waste?
If I give you $1 billion and you can't tell me what happened to it, that to me is wasteful. That means you are not responsible. But if you can't tell me where it went, then what am I supposed to think? And when there has been reporting, this is not like I'm not saying this is on you and that you caused this, but I think it's a tough argument to make that an $850 billion budget to an organization that can't pass an audit and tell you where that money went, I think most people would consider that somewhere in the realm of waste, fraud, or abuse, because they would wonder why that money isn't well accounted for. And especially when they see food insecurity on military bases, and they see...
You want to talk about that? Because that's we should be talking... I'm trying to understand where you're trying to go, other than the dollars, which really bother you.
I think it doesn't really bother me. I think it's all connected.
Okay, tell me that story. Tell me how you're thinking about that.
When I see a State Department get a certain amount of money and a military budget be 10 times that, and I see a struggle within government to get people more basic services, and then that department that got that, we got out of 20 years of war and the Pentagon got a $50 billion raise. That's shocking to me. Now, I may not understand exactly the ins and outs and the incredible magic of an audit, but I'm a human being who lives on the earth and can't figure out how $850 billion to a department means that the rank and file still have to be on food stamps. To me, that's fucking corruption. I'm sorry. And if that blows your mind, and if you think that's a crazy agenda for me to have, I really think that that's institutional thinking, and that it's not looking at the day-to-day reality of the people that you call the greatest fighting force in the world. So I get back to this idea of I'm not looking to pick a fight with you, but I am surprised at that the reaction to these questions are, you don't know what an audit is, bucko. That's just weird to me.
Elon and big balls are going to keep working away at this. And actually, Trump has issued some...
It's you could ask a direct question, and the response to it is another question about why it's weird to ask that. It was bro, what do you mean? We're both looking at the same information. There was 100 ducks. There are 0 ducks, and nobody can say where the ducks went. What just happened? Well, I don't know why you're even looking at the ducks anyway. You should be looking at birds as a whole.
Cautionary words for other government departments.
Early Saturday, a judge agreed with them to restrict Elon Musk and his government efficiency team, Doge, from accessing Treasury Department payment and data systems. They said there was a risk of irreparable harm. What do you make of that? And does that slow you down in what you want to do?
I disagree with it 100%. I think it's crazy. And we have to solve the efficiency problem. We have to solve the...
That just means that whatever he's about to do is about to make something fall apart that they want to stay together.
Fraud, waste, abuse, all the things that have gone into the government. You take a look at the USAID, the kind of fraud in there.
You found significant things?
Well, we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars of money that's going to places where it shouldn't be going, where if I read a list, you'd say this is ridiculous, and you've read the same lists, and there are many that you haven't even seen. It's crazy. It's a big scam. Now, there's some good money, and we can do that through any one of a number. I think I'd rather give it to Marco Rubio over at the State Department. Let him take care of the few good ones. So I don't know if it's kickbacks or what's going on, but the people, look, I ran on this, and the people want me to find it. And I've had a great help with Elon Musk, who's been terrific.
You say you trust him.
Trust Elon? Oh, he's not gaining anything. In fact, I wonder how he can devote the time to it. He's so into it. But I told him to do that. Then I'm going to tell him very soon,
didn't say yes.
like maybe in 24 hours, to go check the Department of Education. He's going to find the same thing. Then I'm going to go to the military. Let's check the military. We're going to find billions, hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud and abuse. But I can't pay for this, Brett.
So that's it, guys. Let me know your thoughts below, and if you've done any research.
100 billions is what he's looking to find. We'll see. Look, 100 billion could go ahead and get this deficit, you feel me, decreasing. Let's see. 100 billion? 100 billion?